Expect you to feel what the Nichols family feels. I expect you to feel outrage in the disregard of basic human rights, as our police officers have taken an oath to do the opposite of what transpired on the video. I expect our citizens to exercise their First Amendment right to protest, to demand action and results. But we need to ensure our community is safe in this process. None of this is a calling card for inciting violence or destruction on our community or against our citizens.
Who called for violence against the community or the citizens? Why is that lady automatically, as an agent, come out and talk about that doesn't call for violence and all that? Nobody said anything about violence. Why do they always do those particular things? Let me tell you something. Dr. Rashad Ritchie had a thought about this. Let me play it for you.
Deal with this as a community. I'm sick and damn tired of the police chief hopping her happy ass on TV talking about, hey, everybody behave. Oh, yeah, I'm investigating other cops. We got to figure out what's going on. You're in charge, madam. You mean to tell me you did not know you were in charge of a corrupt police force? All 5 cops on the same page, they didn't even talk about it. They did not have a plan. They all acted the same way. Why? Because it's not a policy issue. It's a cultural issue. Don't act as if all of a sudden you're not a detective, madam. Don't play the game as if somehow you know less than everybody else.
Hey, yes, we got our man back. My man, listen, I got to give him the proper introduction, man. Again, we are going to be talking about the Tyre Nichols. We're going to be talking about policing in America. We're going to be talking, and it's kind of the same all over the world, but we're going to be talking about some particular questions that you've had to ask me that you sent, and we're going to be talking with our brother Maurice, retired PD. Come on, brother. Come on in here, man. We got 2 former law enforcement retired personnel here, and we're going to get down to the real nitty gritty. So go and get your popcorn because it's going to be effective today. We're going to be effective. Welcome in, brother Maurice. How you doing, brother?
Hey, bro. I am doing fine, Jakim. How are you doing today, man?
Yeah, it's a cold February day out there, man, and this is a hot topic, so we're going to get right into it. Right there, we just saw brother Dr. Rashad Ritchie talk about the police chief over in Memphis. Now, I'm going to play, you may have missed it, I'm going to play just a little snippet of what she said before anybody said anything about anything. Just a little snippet, and we'll be right back with our brother. Listen to how she...
I expect you to feel what the Nichols family feels. I expect you to feel outrage in the disregard of basic human rights, as our police officers have taken an oath to do the opposite of what transpired on the video. I expect our citizens to exercise their First Amendment right to protest, to demand action and results. But we need to ensure our community is safe in this process. None of this is a calling card for inciting violence or destruction on our community or against our citizens.
Right, and now, brother, she was reading from the teleprompter, but she automatically went there before anybody says so. What do you say about that, brother?
Listen, the police chief that came over to Memphis had a troubled past, okay? But first off, I don't want to throw anyone under the bus. I want to support a sister because to get at her level, she had to stand on the backs of blacks when they first were able to be a part of the police department back in the 1700s, okay? I want to support her on that. But then also coming over to the Memphis Police Department, she brought some baggage with her, okay? And I don't think a lot of people in America know the baggage she brought with her. So I believe because of what came out, she had to respond right away. 1, to calm rumors. 2, to be transparent. And 3, to get ahead of the story.
Well, let me just hit you on that. The calm rumors. Rumors of what? That she created that particular jump out squad and that she knew exactly what that jump out squad was doing. What is the rumors that she was trying to quell? And as far as ahead of the story, no one talked about violence or protesting. It seems as though she was a preemptive. And again, when it comes to us, it has to be preemptive. No violence. We don't want y'all to act like a fool like y'all normally do. Where in Philadelphia a week and a half ago, they won an NFC championship game and they was acting like the fool, and not one police chief, which is a black police chief, came out and said, I don't want y'all to have violence. Because it was other people doing their celebration, which was violent.
Right.
So I have a problem with black faces in white spaces, and it doesn't change anything with the systemic racism. We have a problem with that. We've got a woman police chief in New York City. She seems to don't know what to handle on that one. We got one in Philadelphia. Crime is off the hinges. I'm not blaming them for the crime. But when you sit in the chair, you get the heat. What do you say about that, brother?
That is true. That is definitely true. Black faces in high places, if they're not willing to make a difference, they're no good to the issue and the community. I'm gonna say it again. Black faces in high places. I don't care if it's law enforcement, corporate America, politics. If you are not willing to make a difference in our community, you are no good.
No good to us. And no good to us. Yeah, I agree with you 100%, brother.
Because they're standing on the backs of folks that came long before them that allowed them to be in the position that they are. And we got some black folk that feel that they have arrived. And when they have arrived, they disconnect from the cause and the problem.
That's right. And you know, when we have those that seem to want to have just white claps or the power structure, whether you want to call it that or not, the power structure claps and the accolades from the power structure, it seems as though we just keep getting these goofy puppets, clowns, and black figureheads that have no real power. Now, in this case, and I'm going to talk about Memphis because Memphis is a fantastic town. But lately, Memphis has had a whole bunch of issues, just like every other big city, with guns. I think the young Dolph was killed in Memphis. And of course, we ain't going to even talk about that. Martin Luther King was killed in Memphis, Tennessee. We ain't even going to talk about that. But it's a great town. And I actually love the vibe when I go to Memphis. But here's my problem. And Dr. Rashad Ritchie said it the best. When she jumped her happy ass on television to try and say, oh, y'all don't have no violence. Hold on. Talk about this issue. Ain't nobody talked about rioting in the streets. Talk about the issue of your cops and this squad and this all-black squad. I know you know this, and you know I know it as well. The trend has been lately to put these jump-out squads be mostly black members. And that's because they don't want the appearance of racism, but that's exactly what you get anyway. What do you say, brother?
Okay, so let's go back to C.J. Davis when she was part of the Atlanta Police Department. They created a squad called the Red Dogs. Red Dog stood for ridding every drug dealer out of Georgia.
Wow. Thank you, brother.
She was over that squad. She was terminated, and the rumors are, or the situation surrounding why she left is kind of murky. Okay, but she was terminated, but she was over the Red Dog unit in Atlanta. She came to Memphis, created the Scorpion Squad, the Jump Out Boys. Okay?
Yes.
We know about Jump Out Boys across the country. And let me say this before I even get into this program. I want to thank you for the opportunity for allowing me to be on this platform. I did an interview with you some time ago You are a down solid brother. I follow
you, my brother.
You know I follow you.
And I feel the same way about you. You're absolutely right, man. Thank you.
So, thank you for the opportunity. And if I can digress for a second, you talk about Philadelphia and the sports fans celebrating in the streets. When it comes to white people, they are enthusiastic and they love their team and they're showing love. When it's black folk, we're criminal. Okay, we're aggressive. We're tearing up our neighborhoods. We mean no good to nobody when we celebrate in the same vein and in the same atmosphere.
You know, what you're saying is, and thank you for those kind words, brother. It's the same way with me and you. We've always vibed from day one. And one of the things, because we know the game, we're peeping people to the game. We understand what's going on. And we see through the lies that they're trying to perpetrate. And we're not going for it anymore. You know, I was just, I'm going to let my audience and everybody, because you're going to see this on YouTube. You're going to see a lot of this on Instagram. One of the things that I get all the time from the so-called racists, see, I don't have a problem telling racists what they are, racist. But white folks who supposedly address racists have a problem telling other white folks that they're racist. You know, they have a problem saying what they is and what they is. We don't have a problem saying when black folks or agents do white power structured things. We don't have a problem with that. They're the ones who are the hypocrites because they don't want to say what is pretty prevalent in their own eyes. Let me just get on one subject about this, and I'm going to play a little bit of, for all the folks, if you did not see it, Bishop Swan had a nice little eulogy. If you don't know who Bishop Swan is, from the NAACP up in Vermont or one of those places up north, one of the good NAACPs. I've had problems with NAACPs, but he's one of the good ones. Check this one out, and I'm going to just play a snippet of you.
Nearly 32 years ago, Rodney King's beating by police in Los Angeles prompted heartfelt calls for change. And yet, here we are, 3 decades later, still calling for that change. The killing of Tyre Nichols points to a need for bolder reforms that go beyond simply diversifying ranks within police departments, because we understand that racism is systemic and it is structural. And regardless of the race of the police officer, if you don't change the structure, it still disenfranchises and brutalizes black bodies.
Now, he's just saying, Brother Swan is saying exactly what me and you are saying. And for years, I have seen them put black figureheads in part of these departments and have no power, and that does nothing. It's what we call symbolism and tokenism. What do you say about that, brother?
I do agree with you, but let me give you some historical content.
Yes, sir.
So that black officers around the country will understand the backs they stand on. We can go back as far as the 1700s, when African Americans were allowed to be a part of a police department. There was a gentleman's agreement that black officers could not arrest white people. I want y'all to listen to me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm from Charleston, South Carolina. The first slave patrol was formed in Charleston, South Carolina. I'm from a family of law enforcement officers. My father, 2 uncles. I have a cousin that right now serves as a police officer in the state of Georgia. I said that to say this. When blacks were allowed to be a part of the police department, they were ridiculed. They were treated badly. They could not put their uniforms on in the same room as white officers. They had to change in a gym or in a closet. When they came out and hit the streets to patrol, they couldn't arrest white people. So the only people that they could arrest were black people. So in order for them to be accepted by whites, the only people they could arrest was black people. So in order to go along, to get along, that was the culture. So to remain gainfully employed, They arrested people that look like them. And that is still culture to this day. Now, there are other reasons why they're quick to arrest us, mind you, because black officers will arrest their people quicker than white officers. But I wanted to put that historical content in so people can try to understand where this is coming from. Now, we can have other black officers come in and add to that foundation, but the foundation is back in the 1700s. Black officers were allowed to be a part of the police department, and there was a gentleman agreement: do not arrest white people.
You are absolutely right. And both of us being from former law enforcement, we also know that there were black officers, even when we were on, that would go along with the nonsense. And then there were black officers like us. Everybody knew, especially if you was, big shout outs to everybody whoever came through Queen Central booking and you actually knew Officer Muhammad B. You knew it wasn't going to be that way. And officers knew that I wasn't going down like that, whether it's be that or whether I'm doing Ramadan for the Queen's House of Detention or whatever it is that I'm doing, or special security. One of the things that I have a problem also with is that when we were on the job, we came in during the crack epidemic, and we were hired during the crack epidemic. And there were so many black and brown folks, so I'm going to only talk about black. So when I say black, I'm talking about anybody who consider themselves black. When there was so many black people arrested, and they will tell you today that a lot of them, whether I was doing security in the clubs or whatever, they will tell you today that if it wasn't for some of these black officers, some of them would be dead, because they knew that there were other officers they could not do that in front of, that would not go along with that. Unfortunately, to me, I felt there was a lot of others that would.
I mean, I agree. I've been in law enforcement in and out probably and security for about 20 years. As a matter of fact, I've gone back into it probably within the last year as a public safety officer.
Okay.
This time around, I'm using grace, but we can talk about that later. Okay?
Yes.
Because it's something that I'm finding that a lot of our law enforcement officers and black officers are not using, which is grace, respecting the people and the community that you're serving. If you don't have that mindset, why are you in law enforcement? But I'll go back. Crack epidemic was.
Well, let me just get back to you. So you gave us your pedigree. My father was also a deputy warden here in New York City. Well, I'm in Delaware now, but in New York City. So I come from a law enforcement family as well. One of the things that I have found, just like in Attica, and I always bring up Attica because it was the consent decrees in Attica that inmates who were rioting in upstate New York during the 70s, during the tragedy of Attica, wanted more black officers to be on the force so that they would at least have a chance. And you're right. There are some great black officers on their force, and then there are some that always seem to be a part of the goon squad, that always seem to be a part of the knuckleheads and the goofy agents that they want to be, and don't know that they don't have the same privilege as their counterpart. Now we're going to go to Tyre Nichols, and I'm going to be right back with my brother Maurice, and we're going to be talking about some of the things about the anti-blackness that is permeating all through the United States. And listen, before I go to these videos, if you're sitting there and you're scared about a Chinese balloon or two of them flying across the country, and you're not paying attention to what the GOP is trying to do to Social Security, Medicare, and everything else, and stop the George Floyd Act, then they got you worrying and attracted to the things that don't matter. Talk to y'all. See you on the other side of this video, brother. Peace.
Deal with this as a community. I'm sick and damn tired of the police chief hopping her happy ass on TV talking about, hey, everybody behave. Oh, yeah, I'm investigating other cops. We got to figure out what's going on. You're in charge, madam. You mean to tell me you did not know you were in charge of a corrupt police force? All 5 cops on the same page, they didn't even talk about it. They did not have a plan. They all acted the same way. Why? Because it's not a policy issue. It's a cultural issue. Don't act as if all of a sudden you're not a detective, madam. Don't play the game as if somehow you know less than everybody else. This is your industry, yours. You knew what you were in charge of. And all of a sudden, there are massive investigations with all of your officers. Ma'am, this is a failure.
7, the kidnapping, I sentenced you to 11 years, plus 3 years for the gun. Count 8, the having a weapon while under disability, I sentenced you to 36 months. Count 11, the disrupting public service, a felony of 4th degree, I sentenced you to 12 months.
Is that 43 and a half years?
I don't think there's any half. 43 straight, right?
Bullshit, man. Ooh, get out of here, man. Fuck out of here, man. Bullshit, man. Fucking bullshit, man. You fucked up, man. Bullshit, man.
All right, y'all. The reason why I played the last one, again, big shout outs to Dr. Rashad Ritchie. He penned it when it was coming out about the police chief in Memphis. But the reason why I played that last one, because I want y'all to understand, don't act like everybody is not guilty in jail. Don't act like everybody shouldn't be arrested. I'm just tired of people being arrested and killed for traffic violations, and you can't even figure out what the traffic violation was. You can't even find the crime. Now, let me just give you some context in that last video. You can research the video if you want to, but here it is. The young man is crying now that he got 43 years in jail. His name is Robert House. He got 40. He was found guilty of committed robbery and home invasions at gunpoint. He previously did another home invasion where he robbed a 71-year-old woman while wearing an ankle monitor. He was wearing an ankle monitor when he was doing that. And being on parole, he had also held and robbed 2 15-year-old boys. And the case that he really got the time for is when he did a home invasion on a former NFL player. Now, y'all can play those stupid games out there if you want to. You could go and do all that stuff. But if you ask me, you go out there, the streets got no love for you. And I'm telling you now, they will hand out that time, and rightfully so. We're talking about the people who shouldn't be dead, who shouldn't. But don't make no mistake about it. There's some bad people in jail that should be in jail. What do you say, brother?
I agree with you. As a matter of fact, when I saw that, I knew it was Ohio because the officers' uniforms is the uniform that I used to wear for 13 years. So that's Ohio. That's Ohio Buckeye Sheriff's Association. So I can identify with that uniform. But let me say this. It's something from a show long time ago. I think it was called Beretta. If you do the crime.
Hello. You got to do the time. And here's not only that, this guy was he robbed 2 15-year-old boys. He was at gunpoint in their family home. I mean, the former NFL player was a wide receiver named Joe Javerkis. I may have messed up his name, but he robbed him he's mad that he got 43 years. His lawyer said, that's 43 and a half. No, the judge said, no, that's 43 flat, buddy. That's 43 flat. And now you crying? Come on now. We're talking about, when we talk about Tyre Nichols and when we talk about George Floyd and we talk about people that have minor offenses, whether you're selling cigarettes on Staten Island in New York and you're getting choked out, or listen, you saw the video, I saw the video. They beat the brakes off that boy.
Look, Jakim, I didn't look at the video for
your own mental.
No, it took me about 48 hours or longer to view the video because I kept hearing it was worse than Rodney King. And then when I heard that, I said, I don't want to see that. But before I comment on that, I want people to understand I'm not a tree hugger. What I mean by that,
I love trees, but I ain't hugging them.
Yeah, I'm not hugging them. I don't care if you black, white, gay, straight. If you commit the crime, I'm not talking about people who were framed. I'm not talking about pretextual stops. I'm not talking about the jump out boys that's looking to create a crime. Mm-hmm. I'm talking about those who are bona fidely out there committing heinous crimes. I'm not going to hug you because you're black.
That's right.
Say, oh, y'all putting another black man in jail. I'm not that person.
No,
because I believe in law and order because we're a nation of laws. Now, I do understand that there's some things happening with our community. Mama isn't there, daddy isn't there, grandma's raising us. I do understand that because I'm also not only a social advocate for justice, I'm looking at National Forum of Judicial Accountability.
Yes, sir.
I'm a part of that. I'm pro-police, anti-corruption. But I'm also not naive to go along with some BS story when you burned down a house, killed 3 people, went on a car chase, carjacked some folks, and then I'm supposed to let you out or be sympathetic because you the same skin color as me?
Well, you know what, Maurice, let me just say this. These cats take these penitentiary chances. And that's what he took. He took a penitentiary chance and fold when they get pinched. Remember, the streets will kidnap you. They will raise you and then return you to your family for you to bury them. That's how the streets are. The streets ain't got no love for nobody. And when I see what's happening in Atlanta, what happened in Atlanta with those rappers, and they used their words against them, and they were doing all those things and they admitted, and every one of them folded. Every one of them gonna fold. They do it all the time. If we had to count how many people we've seen in our careers that folded, that was supposed to be gangsters, we would both be multimillionaires by now. So these cats, they take these penitentiary chances. I'm telling you right now, stop taking those penitentiary chances. When we talk about Tyre Nichols, when we talk about George Floyd, and we talk about those others, we're not talking about those cats. We're talking about people who should be alive because it should be a simple arrest.
Absolutely.
If they did a crime.
I agree with you. I agree with you. I agree with you. Law-abiding citizens should not be a subject of police or tyrannical police officers. Mr. Nichols was out to pick up a pizza.
With no reason, there was no reason that he should be dead. And on top of it, have the EMTs take their time to administer aid to him and to be on par. And let me just say this, and this thing is developing almost every day. There's another one. That they just recently had another white officer who was never initially, and we need to go on to that. He wasn't initially indicted for anything, and it was the power of social media that said, hey, there's a tattoo on this guy's hand. It looks like it's a white guy's hand. It was social media who identified this guy. It was NBC News that says, you know what, we got calls from people saying that there was a white person that tased this guy that said beat the brakes off of him. Why didn't he get, and if it wasn't for social media, that would not have happened.
That would have been swept under the rug. Again, white privilege sometimes bring, extra get out of jail cards, as I call it.
Yes.
And I'm so glad that social media took to their platforms to call it out. And immediately he was identified. He was placed on administrative paid leave. But then we kept pushing the envelope. And then he got fired.
So now he's got to jump in. Yeah. So now the pushing to accountability. Because listen, I have long let go of the idea of justice. I've let go of the idea of justice. I've seen enough courtrooms. I have worked in enough courthouses. I understand. I now want accountability. Yes. I'm not looking for justice. I'm looking for accountability, because what you perceive as a justice is not the same thing I perceive for most folks. So we're looking for it. So let me just go before we take this break, because I got to take a quick walk. But I want our young people, we're going to put this one on Instagram, and I want you to listen to the words. You know, 9 times out of 10, we put ourselves in positions. Tyre Nichols was not that. George Floyd was not that. We put ourselves in positions, and I want you to listen to Brother Derek Muhammad when he says, watch what you do.
Whenever you have a combination of alcohol, guns, drugs, egos.
The ego is very, very big.
Hold on, let's not forget about the two most deadly diseases in our community, envy and jealousy. You have a combination or a cocktail where somebody's bound to get hurt. So what I'm teaching my mentees right now is that there's a such thing as being in the wrong place at the wrong time. When you're in an arena and there's alcohol and things are beginning to escalate, it's time to go. Mm-hmm. It's time to go, because bullets ain't got no names.
Oh, that's powerful.
Yes.
My man.
A big shout out to Brother Derek Muhammad. Big shout out to you. You're absolutely right, man. Go ahead. Speak to it, Brother Maurice.
That is powerful. I'm going to say this. So 2 years ago, I created a program called Home Safe. Okay. And it came out of having a conversation with a pastor here in Ohio about why our people don't know what their rights are. Let me fast forward. So I created a program called Home Safe because I ran for Lucas County Sheriff. I didn't win, but I ran.
I'm glad you ran.
Yes, I did. I had mothers, grandmothers, mothers approach me and ask me, how do I keep my nephew, son, and grandson safe from the police? This continually happened after the election. I mean, it continued. So after having a conversation with my wife, she said, look, you got to get back in the game. I don't know how, but you got to get back in the game. So I got back and I created this program called Home Safe. It is academically based around the Constitution, Bill of Rights, Ohio Revised Code, United States Supreme Court, and I'm dealing with issues that law enforcement have the most contact with us and people while walking on private and public property, passenger of a vehicle, stop and identify, and driver of a vehicle, what you should not do when get stopped by police. In my area, I have rolled it out. I've gotten some good feedback, but to go city and county wide, they're pushing back on my program because people told me, and these are white folks, why don't they just comply and complain later?
Oh, the comply lie.
Well, that's what I keep hearing, but I'm not going to stop because I need to save any black person, young men, and I'm purposely targeting young black men and adults in our neighborhood who don't know what their rights are. Now, mind you, anybody want to stand for my presentation that is black, Asian, gay, straight,
Whatever.
I'm not going to stop. I'm going to teach it to you, because the more you know, the more you understand. But right now I see that there is an issue in our community, and I need to educate our young black men on
So
how.
let me jump in there. Let me jump in there for a second. I was in a program a couple of years ago that they had here in Delaware, and they had it on the News Journal, and it was on the Fox and all the news outlet called Pullover Etiquette. And it was with the Newcastle Police Department. We had the Delaware State Police. I was on the panel because at the time I was the chairman of the 16th Democratic Committee. Mm-hmm. And on this thing, most of the people could not understand. Now, we're talking 2013 and 14, when we were having this problem about the pullover etiquette. And one of the things that one of the Delaware State Police officers says, well, you should do this, you should do that, you should do that. And I told him, I said, my pushback was the comply lie. Because you could comply with the whole damn thing. If this guy has a bad day at the house with his wife or his girl or the lady he cheating on is cheating on him, the comply lie doesn't stand. We could talk all over what the pullover etiquette may be. And I want you to go home safe. And that's what we all want. We want you to go home safe. But here's my issue. And what we need to do in the black community even more. And I love your program. And I think is right. We got to start recognizing, being discernment of when stuff start to jump off. When you and I'm not talking about police in this. I'm just talking about what Brother Derek Muhammad was saying. If you see a bunch of alcohol, you at a party and you see the alcohol flying and people start jumping off the handle, that's the time for you to leave. You got to have some discernment. Usually the older you get, the more discernment you get. And it doesn't necessarily happen that way. What do you say about that? That's also what we have to teach our young people as well.
Yes, I do agree with that. And because our young people want to be in the midst of what's happening.
Fear of missing out. Fear of missing out.
I'm missing out. The party is jumping. Everybody is hype. I want to be a part of the hype crew. But part of the hype crew could cause you to lose your life. As you said, the spirit of discernment should help you say, you know what, I need to get away from this situation. And I am trying my best in my locale to help our young people understand that being part of the hype crew is not always a good thing. You need to get home safe.
That's right. And listen,
Tyreek Mama said he was trying to get home. My program said home safe. That's the title. Tyreek Mama said he was trying to get home.
That's right. He wasn't one of those people. Tyree was not one of those people out there doing that. And, the cop that pulls you over may be having a psychotic episode. I don't know. So when they come with the comply lie, that is what I call whataboutisms. What about if they did this? What? No, we're going to deal with what happened. We ain't going to go into the whataboutisms. I have no desire to go with you in the whataboutism. Now, my brother, just recently they wanted me to get back into radio and do a radio show, and I'm really fighting not to do it because I don't like radio. I like video as much. I like television. I was on television for 4.5 years here in Delaware. And one of the things that I do like about radio is that I get some of the nut bags, even with people that send the standard racist tropes, the standard racist things. Oh my! And one of them is the comply lie. Well, if they comply, and I always hit them about, you know what? What about the what about? The whataboutisms is not going to fly anymore. It's just not going to fly, and I refuse to let any white person on this planet tell me how to respond to historic and present racism. I'm not going to stand for it. It is never going to be okay by me, because if you want to really help us, I don't need you to be nice to me. What I need you to do is end this historic and continuing systematic racism. They want to tell black people how to fight their racism. Oh, listen, you don't get to do that. I'm sorry. Nobody gets to do that if you're on the other side and you're not doing exactly all you can. You ain't doing the John Brown stuff to end racism.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
That's how I feel about that, man.
Okay.
But give me something. Give me something, brother.
Okay. So let me give you this. And I would be remiss if I did not mention my sister, who is on the front lines advocating for criminal justice reform. She even took up my case calling for justice. And I'm talking about Dr. Xenia Crenshaw.
Oh my God, we love Dr. Zena. Yes.
She unexpectedly passed away, and I'm gonna be honest with you, I have yet to deal with her death. I have not grieved yet, because that was devastating to me, because I knew who she was, what she stood for, and she created the National Forum on Judicial Accountability. She went before the United Nations and got a favorable ruling.
Yes.
In America, redressing our police department is inadequate.
Yes.
She was moving in a direction that she was going to make a difference between the community and law enforcement. Because, mind you, this is real simple. You got an issue with law enforcement, there's nothing between your complaint and IA. I'm going to say it again.
You're absolutely right.
Nothing between your complaint and IA. Why isn't there a middle ground for people's complaints to be heard, to be taken seriously, and to be investigated? The problem is the police detention is automatic. It's immediate. You may beat the crime, but you cannot beat the ride.
Yes.
You heard that. You heard that, right?
We know that we hear that, and especially when you're being in law enforcement, you hear it all the time. And I want to piggyback on real quick on Dr. Zena. Dr. Zena has been on the Hard Talk with Jakim show, and we have loved what she had stood for. My heart was heavy when I found out that she had passed away. Yes, she was, again, like brother El Haj Malik Shabazz, Malcolm X, she was taking her regress of how black folks were being treated in the United States to a world body. And when you take those to a world body, they don't like that. They hate that. They'd always want to talk about internal things in other people's country, but they never want to talk about what is going on here in this country. And big shout outs to anybody who watches this later on. If you do not know who she was, Dr. Zena, both me and brother Maurice over here, we knew who she was, and we knew what she stood for.
She was a bad sister.
Yes, she was. And she was deep smart. And she was good, because on the Hard Talk with Jakim show, you cannot come on this show and be weak. This is a fast-paced show. We are into a fast-paced thing. We need to give you all the information you need to get to. So we ain't trying to. We want you to catch up. We ain't slowing down for you. We're soaring. We're going to the next level, because the kids behind us. I always say this. I said this last week to a young man on the bus. I said, the people who going to find my biggest fans are going to be the people who just was born in the last 5 years, because they're going to see what I've been doing, and they're going to see what you've been doing. They say, you know what? Why weren't you doing? It's just the same way with all of us who revere Malcolm X and Martin Luther King and James Baldwin. We were babies when they were around, but we revered them. It's always that second generation that is going to find what you say hits home. And Dr. Zena and all of us that are in this digital space that we're doing, we're using our voice to create change and lead by example and have the difficult conversations like you, my brother. We're going to be revered by kids who were just born in the last 5 years.
I agree.
Believe that. Those are going to be your biggest fans.
Yes, I'm going to take up her mantle because she believed in me. She believed in what I stood for. I believe in her, and I believe what she stood for because she was asking for real criminal justice reform change. Now,
right.
People keep asking, why hasn't there been a change from our international leadership, which would be Congress? People got to understand, Congress are pro-police.
Always.
The George Floyd Act, I agree with, except a certain piece of it, which is qualified immunity. Because good officers who do their job correctly should be covered by qualified immunity. Those who are not, Section 42, U.S. 1983, stripping of their qualified immunity, that's what that law is for.
Well, you know,
I agree with that.
Let me just hit you with the qualified immunity, because here in Delaware we have our biggest problems to doing what we call police reform here is because we have the LABOR, which is Law Enforcement Bill of Rights, and they call it labor, and they're trying to change it. And they haven't had enough people down in Dover to change it, and every time it comes up, it always falls short. But qualified immunity has been the sticking point in a lot of things. It doesn't really, they're acting like without that, life is going to change for Black folks. That's not true. They got other laws that protect them. Qualified immunity is if that's the only thing that's a sticking point, get it. Look, you know how I feel about Black leadership. I put it on it all the time about Black leadership in this country, whether it be the Black Caucus or and poverty pimps. I don't really care. But yes, if that's the only sticking point, my problem. Hold on, we're gonna get to a political before we get to the next video. Yes. My problem is, when Vice President Kamala Harris goes down there, she says we should pass the George Floyd Act. You had the House of Representatives, Democrats, you had the Senate, and you had the president. Who are you blaming on that?
Jakim.
Are you really blaming the Republicans on that? You had those. I don't know.
I'm going to take my glasses off for this one. Because I need you to understand exactly where I'm coming from.
Yes, sir. Go ahead, bring it to me, brother.
I may get some pushback on this, but that's okay. I don't care.
Bring it to me, brother.
I stand for what is right and what is just.
Not
just us. Just. Yeah. But Vice President Kamala Harris have the unmitigated gall to talk about reform in criminal justice.
Hello, district attorney.
When she was a district attorney, and she allowed a Black man to go to prison sitting on the evidence that would have exonerated him.
Hello. Hands are dirty. Hands are dirty. Yes, and my brother, we in the Black community said, if you understood, it needs not to be said. And do we understand out there, y'all?
Black faces in high places mean nothing to us.
Nothing.
If you're not willing to use your space and your place to call about a significant change, because they understand what we've gone through as a people. Slave Patrol was started in Charleston, South Carolina. They went out, and every slave that escaped the plantation, that was your first police patrol, would go out, bring them back, and guess where they would hang them? People can look it up. In Charleston, South Carolina, it's called Angel Oak. But back in the day, it was called the hanging tree. Imagine Black bodies hanging from a tree because you escaped for freedom.
Yes. For a type of freedom, anyway. Yeah, you know how that go. Colonialism is slavery too, y'all. So don't think that people, our brothers and sisters that were on the continent, that they weren't going through slavery. Colonialism is a form of slavery as well. When they could come into your country, dominate everything, own the land, own everything, and that's a form of slavery. But you're right. Let me before we go to it, because I'm gonna take one break before we get on out of here, man. We've been hitting some very important points here today. And one of the things that we kept saying, and you heard Brother Maurice say it, black faces and white spaces don't change systemic racism. We are tired of the symbolisms. We're tired of the tokenisms. If you're not going to go and do things in the neighborhood, it don't matter whether you're the first black police chief or the first black judge or the first black this. I'm tired of those. I'm finished with those. I have nothing to do with those anymore. But I will say this. Voluntary guardrails do not work in America. And that's the reason why the George Floyd bill would be good if we can get some, because we got to get that bill and then we got to get the next law into and the next law, because we know that voluntary guardrails don't work. It don't work in medicine. It don't work in policing. It don't work in business. Because if you say, oh, well, you'll be a good company, you won't be a monopolizing company and raise their prices. No, it don't work in America. Voluntary guardrails never work. That's why you need laws.
I agree with you.
And one more thing, most of the time when these people are put in those positions, most of them are unequipped with the skill scopes and the urgency of the moment. The symbolism parlor tricks we've seen all for 400 years. Symbolism parlor tricks. They have the black overseer on the plantation or whatever. We've seen these. We know what they are. And that's the reason why I think Rashard Ritchie and others came out heavy against this sister. We want her to do well, but they came out heavy against her. Not like any other black police chief, whether it be Ramsey or whatever, the ones that are always making the rounds all around the damn place. They came out heavy against her because they recognized what it was. She had a unit, she made the unit, and then she's gonna try to act like she didn't know anything about it. Yeah.
Listen, brother. Let me make these two quick points, because I
yes,
want
sir.
your listeners to understand some historical content. There was a study done with the Los Angeles Police Department, all white officers, male and female. And the question was asked, how do you feel about the black community? And at the end of the study, it said, the white officers said they never grew up with them, that we were aggressive, violent, and uneducated. Hold on.
Yeah.
I followed that up in my presentation with a video of a white deputy sheriff taking a black female to prison or jail. He said, you want to know why we're afraid of you? Because how you look, your violent tendencies, and your aggression. So you got white officers that will believe into this or believe that and will get out of a police car and got that perspective in their head when interacting with us. We do not have a chance. And to have those black officers in Memphis, because trust me, they're quicker to arrest us than white officers. They believe the exact same thing. They have no faith. They don't believe in the black community or the black man.
And let me, you're absolutely right. And I've heard them even say it sometimes, where they think community policing is a waste of time. It means nothing. I don't think we should give them. It's always a us against them mentality. Yes, you're absolutely right. And one of the things I got to put on here, that when we deal with this type of systemic racism and systemic throughout, whether it be health insurance or whether it be health disparities or wealth, definitely wealth disparities, we're nowhere near it. We tend to see that they want to prop up the celebrities, and they want to prop up all these other people to try to get you to be calm and be all right with it. We in the black community, and I'm going to make this statement, we in the black community have a few rich celebrities that do nothing for the success of the black community. We've always had famous black people, and yet white folks end up owning everything. It doesn't matter whether it be the music, doesn't. So don't give me the black celebrity thing. I'm not feeling it. I love the young people today. A lot of the young people are not feeling all that celebrity stuff. They're not feeling it like a lot of us did. A lot of us, when we were growing up, and especially our parents, they listened to these people because they liked their singing, and most of them was dumb and stupid when it comes to political and social stuff. We got to get away from that. We've got to now prop the people who are actually the grassroots people like yourself, and I applaud you on it, that are actually out there doing the work. I like LeBron James, but I don't give two jacks about what LeBron James does. He don't mean anything. Maurice means more to me in the community than LeBron James or Drake or Rihanna or Beyonce. They don't matter to me. You got, when I talk to a lot of the young people, especially, and I hate saying that word young people, but I started something. The other thing I want to do, and before we leave out of here, I want to talk to everybody, and Maurice, you're going to back me up on this. We just talked about alcohol and ego and drugs and being in the wrong place at the wrong time. Listen to me, my people out there. Stupidity is not a defense. Catch up. You got the last one, brother Maurice.
It's funny you said that, because in law enforcement, you know that we will charge people with aggravated stupidity.
Yes.
It isn't a charge. It's an unofficial charge, because how dare you challenge me as a police officer?
Yes.
So you get charged with aggravated stupidity.
That's right. You was rescued. You wasn't arrested. You was rescued. Those things. So listen, before it's been a great time. Thank you for having. We're gonna have another one. And man, your internet is fly over there. Wherever you at now, that's the spot right there, man.
Listen, I want to say this. I'm gonna do probably maybe 15 seconds. I want to say this to every black officer that's a law enforcement officer across the country. If you're not willing to stand up for what is right and which is just, why are you putting that uniform on? Don't be a part of the jump out crew, the jump out boys. Don't be a part of go along to get along. You can make a difference.
Yes.
Stand up for justice and what is right.
Yes.
Those that are causing issues in our police department, you know it. That's why Xenia put her whole career on the line for whistleblowers. Golden badge. We stand for, we're pro-police, anti-corruption. Make a difference in your police department today.
Yes. And listen, this has been the Hard Talk with Jakim show, man. Our guest has been Maurice Morris. And one of the things I wanted to piggyback on that before we leave out of here, to all the black officers on there, those 5 black officers have embarrassed their families. They have embarrassed their relatives. They have embarrassed their mamas, and all of them are embarrassed by their thing. Yes. But for you that's on here that's doing the right thing, your presence is important. We need you there. We need you to do the right thing. This has been the Hard Talk with Jakim show, y'all. And thank you again, brother, for being on here. We're going to leave you with the great and late Tupac. I wish Tupac had remembered what he said, because he had some good things, but he didn't do it. But check this out. We'll see you next week with the Hard Talk with Jakim show. Peace and blessings, y'all.
Thank you, bro.
Be to yourself. Stay to yourself. Trust nobody. Trust nobody. After dog. You know what I mean? Straight up. My closest friends did me in. My closest friends, my homies, people who I done took care of their whole family. I done took care of everything for them, looked out for them, put them in the game, everything. Turned on me. But I'm a soldier. I always survive. I'll constantly come back. You know what I mean? Only thing that can kill me is death.
They attack black people after they've been murdered when they did absolutely nothing wrong. You're pushing us to the limit. And what do I mean by that? You're asking us to talk about history, the history of the South. This is in Georgia. What happened in Georgia? There were savages in Georgia. It was the ancestors of the white right-wingers. They were absolute savages. They murdered people. They lynched people. They raped people. They enslaved people. They took babies from their mothers and sold them as property. You want to talk about savages? Your ancestors were the biggest savages the world has ever seen. And so don't you dare call a black man a savage after you murdered him. Don't you dare do that. I'm so sick of African Americans being called violent when the world's worst violence was done to them, not by them, to them, not by them. For God's sake, you want to do racist stereotypes? If it fit anywhere, and it doesn't, but if it fit anywhere, it would certainly fit white right-wingers in the South, who has hundreds of years of history of being savages. Savages! They snatched babies, and they sold them as property, and they raped their mothers. Savages! That's what they were. You want to talk about stereotypes? Screw all of you who still defend that Confederacy. That monstrosity. Anyone who defends that is a barbaric savage.